you check the children. Your little master.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
And I'm Davey Deathray.
That's right, Davey Deathray coming in clutch once again to come to another advanced screening. This is for one that a lot of people are excited about, and I think with good reason, because the franchise is one of the most popular franchises out there in my estimation. This is the 6th installment, and we are here to talk about Final Destination Bloodlines. And we're going to do this like we normally do. We'll talk about the overall thoughts, the story, the acting, the effects, all that good stuff in turn. And then at the very end, we are going to do a spoiler section. It will be a non-spoiler review up until that point, and we will let you know in very clear terms when we are going into the spoiler territory. So please, we won't do anything before that happens, and we will let you know. So do stick around for our non-spoiler thoughts at the very least. So I know I just said we're going to do a spoiler section at the end of this, but I ultimately decided to go ahead and separate it. So don't worry about that. This whole video is going to be spoiler free. So you guys are good to go. And then if you want to watch the spoiler video, go ahead and click on that once we make that available in a day or two. So thanks. I know what I thought, but Davey, I'm very curious about what your thoughts are on this one.
I enjoyed this one pretty all right. I think I was hoping I would like it more.
Okay.
But you know me, I have issues with run times, and when I saw that it was an hour 49, I think it's a movie that if it were just like 10 minutes shorter, probably would have had a better pace for somebody of my taste.
Okay.
Would have had a bit more like snap to it. But I do think that, yeah, I mean, overall thoughts, I thought it was, you know, everyone was like, what does the term bloodlines mean? Like, how are they going to integrate that into the story? Is it going to work? And I think that the way they do it here worked for me.
I should have brought that up already. Already missed it.
I thought you were waiting for a dramatic moment.
No. I mean, I mentioned it earlier. Should have done it then. So, all right, fair enough. I had a feeling you didn't like it quite as much as me because I loved it. I really enjoyed this one. I was concerned because I rewatched all the original ones, the first 5, and within the last 2 months, watched them with Morgan. I do plan to. We had planned to do reviewing them all, or we had planned to do reviews for them all leading up to this, but we didn't have the time to do so. So we may just record like a review roundup of them all.
Yeah.
You know, just sort of a grand review of them all. But I will say that I really enjoyed this one. This might be my new favorite, because I just think it was a stronger overall movie than at least 3 through 5 were. I'm struggling to decide whether I want to put it above 1 and 2.
Yeah.
To me, I think 2 was the peak up until this point.
Yeah.
And then I think 1 was the best beyond that. I think 3 through 5 were just showcases of effects. Like, there was no story to speak of in any of them outside of Death coming to get the kids. At least, and that was part of the problem. Like, I was surprised at how little there was to the story in 3 through 5 compared to 1 and 2.
Yeah.
This one had more story than all of them, in my opinion. I feel like it was the most well thought out of all of them. It was the funniest of all of them. I laughed way more in this one than any of the other ones. I cared way more about the characters in this one than any of the other ones, because all of the other ones, you get a 5 to 10 minute intro of them all, and then they all start dying off, and there's no depth to any of them given. This one is structured differently than all the rest of the film. Surprised me, really surprised me, because we see the intro, and I'm like, okay, I get it, but are we gonna get 2 of these? Are we gonna get 2 separate mass, killing scenes? But they approached it differently than I expected, and doing that allowed for a good section of the movie for us to get to know the characters that were in peril. And even before we knew those were the characters that were going to be in peril necessarily, we were learning about them and getting closer to them. So when everything started to happen, I was way more invested in the characters. I won't say attached to the characters, but I'll say invested in their stories, way more so than the other movies were, or than I was for the other movies. So, overall thoughts, I was just really, and the kills were were grotesque and incredible, and some of the best in the series, in my estimation. One of them is perhaps my favorite kill of the whole franchise, and we'll touch on the kills in the spoiler section. But yeah, I mean, I am glowing about this movie, and I wasn't expecting to be, but I'm very happy to be. So, the long and short of the story is, as you see in the trailer, I'm going to touch on what was in the teaser and the first trailer, which is you do see a glimpse of what happened years ago, like in the 50s or 60s. I'm not sure if they showed us at the very beginning. They very well might have, and I missed it. But it was back then where there was this, Space Needle sort of restaurant built, and there's something that happens, a disaster, and this couple is going there to sort of, the dude's wanting to propose to her, and it's a very special sort of occasion. And then all this happens, and I won't say how it ties in, but then we meet our characters in the future, like in the current day, so to speak, right? And her family like ties into what happened at the beginning, and so it becomes, her family ends up kind of being in peril, and that's as much as I want to say about the story, because I think it does a pretty good job of explaining itself along the way. But that in and of itself is deeper than sort of the randomness of all the other installments. You know what I mean? There's more to it. There's more substance to it. So that's the long and short of the story. This girl has to figure out how to save her family because she starts off sort of having the dream of the premonition from years ago. So she's the protagonist trying to stop everything, in other words. That's our lead character. So I really appreciated the story of this, and I liked how it played out because it was very Final Destination, but it was Final Destination with an extra layer underneath it, which is what I always wanted. At least seeing 3 through 5 again in rapid succession in the last 2 months, I was like, these are really puddle deep. This one is at least pool, like shallow pool deep. You know what I mean? 4 foot pool deep.
I think in those other sequels, they do find these other connections, these threads and all that to some of the other stories.
But they're barely.
But in this one, it's almost like they sort of flipped the way that they did it in a way that like made it fresh and new. And yeah, done really well. I mean, when I say so-so, it's not like I enjoyed the movie.
Well, feel free. Like, you can have your thoughts on it. I made glow about it more than you.
I certainly enjoyed it more than Clown in a Cornfield.
I 100% agree with that. Yeah. Now, I do want to compare it to The Monkey, because The Monkey was very similar in its sort of surprise gore and stuff like that. This is, of course, anticipated surprise gore. Like, something's coming. You don't know quite how it's going to happen in any given scene. And so that's fun. I think this one is a much less silly story, believe it or not, than The Monkey was. So I actually enjoyed this more than The Monkey, even though I really was one of the people that really enjoyed The Monkey. But it's very similar in its execution. And I mentioned the Final Destination series when we reviewed The Monkey, so I think it's an apt comparison. But this was just a lot of fun, and the acting, I actually appreciated the acting in this one quite a bit, especially compared to 3 through 5. I think the acting was solid in 1 and 2. 3 through 5, it really started to slip, with the exception of Mary Elizabeth Winstead in 3. She was like sort of playing her own game where everyone else, like she was playing AAA where everyone else was playing AA ball. You know what I mean? But this one, I feel like everyone, even the younger characters, which are kind of always the so-so characters, I feel like they did a really good job. The younger brother, the cousins, I feel like everyone did it, and especially the guy that was featured in the teaser trailer, which, by the way, is one of the best subversions in a film's marketing that you'll ever experience. Like, I am so surprised at how the film played out based on how they did the marketing, which is lovely to say, instead of being like, they ruined the movie in the marketing, i.e. Longlegs for me. This, like, literally subverted my expectations with the marketing. And I loved that about this film. Like, I have to give it its kudos, its ducats for that. You know what I mean?
Well, they totally pulled that off. I thought that was great, and you're right. That character was like got some of the biggest laughs in the theater.
Very
Sometimes they didn't even
charismatic.
have to say anything.
Very charismatic
to get
dude.
laughs.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
all like tons
The
of
whole-
fun. Yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, he's great. I do think you're right. The younger brother, I really enjoyed his performance. And
Even the kind of annoying bitch cousin, you know what I mean?
she was great. Yeah.
Played that role so well. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
And I mean, of course, Tony Todd. You know.
Thank you. Yes. Those are actually two things that I really wanted to discuss in this review. Tony Todd, his scene is amazing. And it's not because I'm like saying it's an Oscar-worthy performance, although it's phenomenal as any Tony Todd performance is. But I will say that it was a much more personal scene to me as an audience member of this series for so long. And it pays respect to him as an actor, to his character that he's played through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Gives that character more depth than he's ever had.
Yeah.
And it also acts as a functional goodbye from Tony himself to not just the characters but the audience themselves. It truly kind of caught me off guard with how beautifully it was done.
I agree.
In a horror movie, right? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like something you wouldn't expect them to take the time to do right. My God, they did it right.
Yeah, sometimes it can be tough to pull off the poignant stuff without it
Yeah.
being too syrupy or just come
Too
off as-
ham-handed, yeah.
Yeah, just like it's got to have that right vibe. I think they totally nailed that here.
Agreed.
Yeah, a really good send off and another one of those kind of subversion of expectations in
Agreed.
that,
Yeah,
as well.
agreed. Yes. I didn't even think about that when I said they deepened his character, but they really deepened his character.
Yeah.
And yeah, you kind of find out why he's been so integral to the franchise.
Yeah.
Which is nice. You know, I say that not to spoil, but to whet your appetite, right?
There you go.
You kind of had to know that was going to be
He's
the case.
there for a reason.
Yeah, well, that's good writing.
Yeah.
Says he's there for a reason.
Yeah.
Bad writing would have had him just walk through the fucking
Sure.
movie again. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
I thought they did in that Top Gun Maverick. I thought they did a really good one with Val Kilmer, although that was a couple years ago. But another really good kind of send off.
Very apt
you know
comparison.
that there's
Yes.
impending.
Unfortunately, you're right. No,
Yeah.
it's a very apt comparison. Well done. Yeah.
And I think it's this movie. One of the things that it did really well is I could tell the people that made it really do love the franchise.
Yeah.
Because they tried a lot harder than you're gonna get in the other sequels.
It's funny to that point. Just without spoiling anything, I love that the log truck has become essentially the mascot of the series.
Can't let it go. Can't let it go.
They've gone back to it so many times,
Yeah.
whether it's just in art or whatever. I'm not gonna say how it's mentioned in this movie, but it's touched on in this movie, just like it was touched on in a few of the other movies
Yeah.
after too, because they know that that's the thing that everyone. I'll still see TikToks to this day
Yeah.
of people taking shots of the lot. Like I saw one the other day that was a person filming an accident where a log had gone through the windshield into the driver. They're like, oh, and they thought we were just scared for no reason.
Yeah.
And it was like, I'm like, oh, dude, it's like it's become such a thing in the zeitgeist.
Yeah.
Because of these movies. And so, yes, again, I like that it's kind of become the mascot of the series.
The world was forever changed after that scene.
Yeah, for real.
You remember where you were when it happened?
Well, it was, yeah, for
There's
sure.
two different worlds, Cecil.
For
Before
sure.
Log Truck Fear and after Log Truck Fear.
Well, it's like we all were worried about log trucks before. We just didn't have it emblemized as to why until after the movie. But all right, so you like the acting as well. Did you find any shortcomings in any of the actors, or were you good across the board pretty much? I was.
I really warmed up to our final girl. I think
I agree.
The very beginning, I was like, I'm not so sure, and then I think the performance got better as the movie went on.
I can see why you'd say that, and I don't disagree, for sure. Because I was like, wow, she's going hard right out of the gate. But it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Because we find out that she's been tortured by these dreams for 2 months.
Yeah.
Before we even see her. So they gave reasons. Again, very well written Final Destination movie.
Yeah.
I have to give it to the screenwriters. They thought about these things, and I love that about this one. Let's talk about the filmmaking briefly. The actual shots and everything, very well done. Really cool cinema. Wonderful about utilizing the cinematography to showcase the kills and not cutting away.
Yeah.
gloriously not cutting away.
Oh yeah, they go for it. Yeah.
And dude, even the very beginning, like, I will say, there's something involving a piano that got the crowd cheering in the first, like, sequence.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that the crowd was cheering in the first sequence, I was like, yes, dude, they know what they're doing. I can't wait to see what they have in store for us. And I was really pleased the pretty much the entire way through. They did a good job of showing why Final Destination is good, and yet subverting the expectations of people that have seen 5 Final Destination movies up to this point.
That's the trick, because they're all kind of like Rube Goldberg machines
Yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like this really like or trying to guess a comedian's joke or something like that. It's
Yep.
like you take stock of everything and you're like, all right, how's this gonna go
Yeah,
down?
you're clocking all this shit.
Yeah, and they do a really great job at like surprising and giving you the full Monty, so to speak.
Surprising and not surprising, which is surprising, right? So much that, like, they explain how something might happen,
Sure.
and then you're like, okay, so it's not going to happen that way, and then it surprises you by actually happening
Yeah.
that way and stuff like that. So, like, there's that extra level of complexity which I really love. But yeah, so filmmaking very, very well done, score great, but soundtrack was awesome. The songs that they use, a lot of John Denver in the first one, and then they expanded a little bit going beyond that, but music became less of a thing, I feel like, in 3 through 5. They used it a little bit more, for sure, the most in 1, and a little bit still in 2. Used a lot in this one, and I feel like it was very well at least 3 different times, very well utilized. 2 of them in the early scene, but both so well done. Actually, no, 3 in the opening scene alone.
Yeah.
But they did do a couple after that. So, score and soundtrack for you.
I dig it. Again, another like little attention to detail thing that they wanted to bring back from the earlier days of the franchise, the better days of the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I can sort of see like the love letter and just kind of fitting right back in with what the elements that the franchise does really well.
Yeah.
I think with the music, especially with the opening scene in the late 50s, early 60s, like the songs are they're perfect for that time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I really dug the rock and roll stuff that they were putting in the regular movie.
Yeah.
I kind of a breath of fresh air after not knowing any of the songs in Clown in a Cornfield.
You know what? And to that point still, they used music to tell a really good joke in the movie.
Yes.
When a playlist switches.
Yes.
And the whole audience is laughing. I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, they knew what they were doing with this movie, man.
Yeah. There's a couple of those because I think there's one at the beginning.
Yeah. You're right.
So
you're right.
they do a really good job. They
It's so okay. Now let's talk about the effects. Okay. Obviously, it's going to be tons of CG in this movie, but it's a matter of just. Like, I have way less issues with CG than other people seem to nowadays.
Gotcha.
Like, I seem to be way more forgiving, or I just... Like, I know that it's CG, but I don't mind. I just I hand myself over to the movie in most cases.
Yeah.
Unless it's super egregious. I understand that not everything is going to be fucking phenomenal. Not everything's going to be Tyler Adams level of work. But yeah, it's so well done for what it is, in my opinion, and again, that they can't actually film these things, so the things they go wild with the CG for, it's like, okay, yeah, I know they're not going to do this for real anyway, so how good does it look in this context? It all looks great to me in that context.
Yeah, I don't have an issue really with CG either.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's just like, make it look good. You can have bad looking practical effects. You can have bad looking CG.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they both exist in this world.
Yeah.
So I just think, it's more about what fits the piece. And I totally agree with what you're saying. It's like with something like this, if you really want to be wild and have a really good time, it just seems like CG sort of fits the like even just the mood of the tone of the Final Destination franchise.
Well, and let's not give a mischaracterization of what's in the film. There is a lot of CG in the film, but a lot of it is CG augmentations of practical effects. Not everything, obviously. There is a lot of simply CG stuff, of course, but there are practical effects that are done and augmented by CG. My favorite kill in the movie was so fucking well done because it's literally the character interacting, screaming, talking, and then they do not cut away as the thing happens to the character.
Sure.
And it's full display, and it's not anything where it's like it obscures your vision and like it hides it behind something. It is like, no, here it is. Enjoy. And as a gore hound, right, I absolutely loved it. I loved the gore in this movie. There's a warning about death getting messy, and then something happens where death gets very messy.
Yes.
And it's you even mentioned it after the movie too.
Yeah.
Like, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So please let me step aside and let you talk about your thoughts on the gore or the effects.
Yeah, I really dug the effects, and yeah, I think like you're saying, it's one of those things that just, you know, I mean, for me, that's what I look for in this franchise. Those moments got, you know, especially the moment that we're talking about with death getting messy, just you're sort of basking in those moments. And I agree, like, it's everything, it can be dynamic. I don't need every kill in every movie to be like this high or this low or whatever. I like a good mix, but in this series, I think it's great to just see them on full display.
Yeah,
it's kind of like what you expect, and the audience was having a blast with these.
Yeah,
so
I agree. So I think that's pretty much going to do it for our non-spoiler thoughts. We don't often do ratings on this channel, but if I were to give this one a rating, I think my gut is telling me my immediate grade would be 4.5 out of 5. That's what my gut is telling me. I'd give it probably a 9 out of 10. Yeah, 4.5 out of 5, 9 out of 10. I enjoyed it that much. Where do you think you'd stand on it?
I'm probably like 3.5 out of 5.
Okay,
I would say
7. Okay,
yeah,
7 out of 10. Like,
I just think if it were, you know, a little just trimmed down, a little quicker in the edit, I would have enjoyed it a lot more.
Fair enough. I actually didn't feel the length at all. Like, I was in it the whole time. I feel like if it had gone any longer, I would have felt the same way as you. I would have felt like, okay, we need to trim it down to this. It was 1:49, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what you said? And, you know, like 4 minutes of that is credits, so it's 1:45. Sure. And I feel like that's the pocket. I think 1:30 to 1:45 for a Final Destination movie is the pocket. You're probably more on the 1:30 side. I was okay with this. So you guys, if you
such
know,
a brat.
No. It's great. You know, right? We have to have that. Well, we don't have to, but it's nice to have that sort of difference between hosts, official hosts, right? Because if you guys didn't notice or didn't know for sure, I've been meaning to do like an actual video celebrating it. And so hopefully we'll get to do that soon. But yeah, Davey is officially part of the Horror Show channel. I need to make sure to add your link to this one as well. So, yeah, guys, make sure you subscribe to Davey Deathray if you haven't yet. Thanks very much for watching. Let us know what your thoughts are on this movie in the comments down below. I really appreciate. I would greatly curious to know your all's thoughts. Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel the way that you do. Thank you to Davey for coming in and sitting in on this review. We are also scheduled to Bring Her Back this Thursday. So I don't know when the embargo will be lifted for that review, but that's the new movie by the guys that did Talk to Me, the Filippo brothers. So very excited about that. And as of right now, Davey's going to be the one joining me on that journey, I believe. So,
hell yeah.
Come back to see us talk about that when we're able to put it up. Let us know what your thoughts are on this one in the comments down below. And until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
And I've been Davey Deathray.
And remember,
stay scared.